I'm 84 years old, and most of the people who once argued with me about money are gone now. That's the strange part. All those numbers I obsessed over, they're still sitting in accounts somewhere, quiet, untouched. And the people I told myself I was doing it all for aren't sitting across from me anymore. Money wasn't the biggest mistake I made. It was what I traded for it. I grew up in a house where there was never quite enough. My father ran a small hardware store that barely survived. Some months we had meat on Sundays. Some months we didn't. I remember the way my mother stretched soup with water and called it just as good. I hated that feeling, the thinness of it, the uncertainty. By the time I was 20, I had one clear goal. I would never worry about money again. I married at 25. She was warm in a way I didn't understand back then. She laughed easily, didn't count pennies the way I did. On our honeymoon, she told me, "I don't care if we're rich. I just want a life that feels full." I nodded like I agreed. But in my mind, full meant secure, and secure meant money. In my 30s, I started a small construction company. Just me and a truck at first. Long days, longer nights. I came home exhausted but proud. Every new contract felt like proof that I was outrunning my childhood. She would wait up for me sometimes, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea gone cold. "You're working too hard," she'd say softly. "It's temporary," I'd answer. "Once we're stable." Stable kept moving. When we had our first son, I held him and promised him something he never asked for. I promised he would never feel what I felt growing up. So I worked harder, missed a few bedtime stories, then more than a few. I told myself he wouldn't remember. Babies don't remember, but children remember patterns. We had a daughter 3 years later. She used to run to the door when she heard my truck pull in. For a while I'd scoop her up, smell her hair, let her tell me about her day. Then the business grew. Employees, payroll, loans, bigger risks, bigger rewards. The nights I got home, they were already asleep. On weekends, I was catching up. I told myself I was building something for them. I was. Just not what I thought. In my 40s, the company really took off. We built commercial properties. I bought a second truck, then a third. We moved into a larger house with a wide driveway and a view of the lake. The first night there, my wife stood in the living room, turning slowly. "It's beautiful," she said. I watched her face carefully, looking for something. Gratitude, maybe. Validation. She smiled. But there was a distance in it I didn't recognize then. The slow cost of my choices didn't show up as a fight. It showed up as absence. My son stopped asking me to come to his games. He'd say, "It's okay, Dad. I know you're busy." My daughter stopped running to the door. She'd wave from the couch without looking up from her book. My wife stopped waiting up at the kitchen table. We became efficient, coordinated, like co-workers running a household. We discussed schedules, tuition, mortgage rates. We didn't talk about loneliness. I thought providing was love. I thought the size of the house proved something. But love isn't measured in square footage. When I was 52, my wife asked if we could take a week away. "Just us," she said. "No phones." I laughed. "Do you know what a week away would cost me?" She looked at me carefully. "I'm not talking about money." I didn't understand that sentence until decades later. Instead of a week away, I bought her a new car. It was red. She'd once mentioned liking red. She thanked me, kissed my cheek, drove it to the grocery store. We never took the trip. In my late 50s, my son left for college. I helped him move into his dorm, carried boxes, wrote a check for tuition without blinking. Before I left, he said, "Thanks for everything, Dad." It sounded formal. I remember standing in that narrow dorm hallway, wanting to say something bigger, something warmer, but the words felt awkward in my mouth. So I patted his shoulder and said, "Make smart decisions." That was our goodbye. My daughter left 2 years later. She hugged me tightly, longer than usual. "Don't work so much," she said. I smiled. "That's how you got here." She didn't answer. When my wife and I found ourselves alone in that big lake house, the quiet was heavier than I expected. I thought we'd finally enjoy what I'd built. Instead, We moved around each other like polite guests. One evening, sitting across from me at the dining table, she said, "I miss you." "I'm right here," I replied. She shook her head. "No, I miss the man who used to sit on the floor and build block towers." I felt defensive. I did what I had to do. "Did you?" she asked gently. That question stayed with me. The turning point came when I was 67. I had just finalized the sale of the company, a number so large it made my hands tremble. I remember thinking, I did it. We're safe forever. That same week, my wife was diagnosed with a stroke. Not fatal, but it changed her. She lost some speech, some movement in her right hand. The red car sat in the driveway untouched. Suddenly, I had all the time in the world and no idea how to use it. I sat beside her in rehab sessions, helped her relearn simple things, watched her struggle to form sentences. One afternoon, she squeezed my hand with her weaker fingers and managed to say slowly, "I didn't need all this." Her eyes moved around the room, not accusing, just tired. "I needed you." There it was. All those years I thought I was protecting us from scarcity. I had created a different kind, a scarcity of presence, a scarcity of shared memories, a scarcity of ordinary afternoons. We had a few quiet years after that, softer ones. I cooked, I listened, I learned how she liked her tea, though I'd watched her make it for 40 years. But the truth is, we were rebuilding on ground that had already settled. She passed away at 74. The lake house felt enormous after that, echoing, every polished surface reflecting back at me what I'd prioritized. The money was still there, invested, growing, but it couldn't sit beside me at dinner. It couldn't call just to ask how my day was. My children visit, but not often. They have their own lives, busy ones. I don't blame them. I taught them that work comes first. I taught them that providing is the same as loving. They learned the lesson well. Sometimes my grandson comes over and sits on the couch scrolling through his phone. I watch him, and I see myself at 40, mine somewhere else. I want to take the phone gently from his hands and say, "Look around. This is the part you'll miss. But I know he has to learn in his own time. At 84, I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my days. What I don't have is one more chance to sit at that small kitchen table in our first house when we were broke and close and still laughing easily. Back then, we ate soup stretched with water sometimes, and I remember feeling embarrassed. Now I remember feeling together. Money wasn't the biggest mistake I made. It was believing that fear should drive every decision. Believing that security would automatically create happiness. Believing that I could postpone presents until some imaginary finish line. There is no finish line. There is just a series of evenings. A series of conversations you either have or avoid. A series of small choices that quietly shape your life. If you're listening to me, I'm not telling you to ignore money. It matters. Being unable to pay bills is its own kind of stress. But don't let fear make you blind. Don't let just a few more years turn into decades. The house I live in now is smaller. I sold the lake place after she died. Too many echoes. In the evenings, I sit by the window and watch the light fade. Sometimes I talk to her photo. I tell her I understand now. I understand that fullness isn't something you buy. It's something you sit inside of while it's happening. If this means anything to you, don't wait until the accounts are full and the chairs are empty. At 84, I can tell you with a steady voice, money wasn't the biggest mistake I made. Thinking I had more time to be present, that was.